Hello and welcome back to the Will I Vike It podcast. Today I'm at Berrycroft Hub. I've been running a course all day, but I've nabbed Sally-Ann, who, if you're a regular listener or watcher, you might remember Sally's been on before. I think it was about 2 years ago.
Yes.
Where we cooked garlic fritters.
We did.
And we talked a lot about what you do here at Berrycroft. We talked a lot about beetles and bugs, and I think we talked about your cattle.
Yes,
rightly.
yes, yeah, we did.
Lots of different things, but I thought it was worth talking to you because you're a lady that's always doing very interesting things. Follow your social media and you're always up to something. So I thought maybe you could come on and chat to me a bit about kind of your adventures, where you've been, what you've been up to. You know, there's particularly one thing I wanted to talk about.
Go on, ask me. I mean, it's a bit of a giveaway, really.
You went on a little bit of a drive, didn't you?
I went on a bit of a road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I went on it was nearly 7,000 mile road trip. And
trying to show my road trip to Norway up, weren't you?
It was never going to be that long, but it sort of went on.
Yeah.
I took my son with me, who is in his 20s, early 20s, but doesn't drive. Okay. Hasn't got a driving license, hasn't got round to it yet. He is going to. If he watches this podcast, you are going to learn to drive.
You will learn.
You will learn to drive. He lives in a city. And he says,
I need to.
Yeah, I don't need to drive. And he's very comfortable using public transport. And that's great, but there might be a change when he needs to drive. And I thought, we need some mum and son bonding time. We need some really good mum and son bonding time. How do you have bonding time with your son, who's early 20s, just the two of you, going off? And he's in between, I'm saying he's in between girlfriends at the time, so this was my moment.
Lock him in a car and drive into the Arctic.
My moment, yeah, exactly. What can I do? I need to have some life discussions with him and all this sort of thing. I'll take him somewhere where he gets to have a lot of time with me.
Yeah. And
his opportunity to get away from me would involve something like exposure or, So, and it was quite intense. So I wanted...
You've been yourself before though, haven't you?
Yeah, I've already been to the Arctic. I hadn't really been to the Arctic before. I love Scandinavia. I love cold countries. I go to mountain ranges in Europe and things like that, looking at the ecology and the impact of wolves and the impact of climate change and all these sort of things. And they're things that I study because you have plants and things happening at very specific heights and altitudes. And as climate's changing, you've got trees encroaching on these alpine meadows, and the alpine meadows can't go any higher because it's just rock. And so you see these incredible things when you're looking at the ecology like I do, and the small things, places like islands and high altitudes and things like that, they really show the things. And I really wanted to get further up north, because you can understand a lot more about the climate change in places like that. And I've been very lucky. I do a little bit of presenting professionally as well. And I'd made a couple of programs with the British Antarctic Survey. So I I just love the cold, and I love the ice. I love the snow. I love all those type of polar things. And I thought, well, I'll go on a road trip with my son to have this bonding time. I'll go to, I've got to have a goal. You can't say, let's go somewhere, let's do something. And I realised that there's been very few solo women, as in on their own driving, to reach Nordkap, which is the highest point you can take a car in Europe to the Arctic Circle, to the North Pole. And very few people have done that, ladies on their own of a certain age, in the winter, in the height of the Arctic winter. So I thought, great.
So you drove from here?
I drove from here.
Wow.
I was very, very lucky. I have a 4-wheel drive, and there was a few things that I got right and a few things that I got wrong. It does have a preheat on its engine, which was really, really vital because my car had to sleep out at night and the temperatures just plummeted. I mean, seriously plummeted. Once I got over the Arctic Circle, I got up the top there, the temperatures plummeted. I had cod liver oil tablets, capsules in my car. They exploded.
Oh. So how cold are we talking?
We are talking seriously cold. The coldest it registered in the car was -37. And it was very, very cold. When we actually did get to Nordkap and stood on the cliff where the Baltic Sea goes and then into the Arctic Ocean, that was so cold. It was ridiculously cold. And the wind was just mad. But yeah, so I got the preheat on the engines. That was good. I had to make sure my oils in my car would go down to -20, and things like that. A few other things. I had to get some wheels because my car had low profile wheels on it.
Yeah.
And I work a lot going up farm tracks and everything. I'm always out on farms. I'm always out in places sort of sampling and doing stuff because it's what I do with my other line of work. And I was just like, I was getting loads of punctures in these things. Because when I bought this car, it wasn't new, and I bought it secondhand, and it had round wheels, and I didn't take more attention than that. I don't go particularly off-roading in it, so I don't want the big chunky wheels and springs and all this sort of thing. I wasn't doing any of that. I just wanted wheels that went round and didn't get punctures. I got punctures all the time.
Yeah.
And these wheels.
Yeah.
So I needed new wheels, and they were really expensive, and I needed snow tyres to a certain grade because you can have studs up there. You can't have studs in some of the cities, and you can't have snow chains.
Okay.
So so you needed decent snow tyres, and the native Norwegian, Swedish and Finnish, they're all having studs when you go right up the very top. I didn't have studs, which wasn't necessarily ideal. But I contacted a wheel company and managed to get some wheels and tyres, and they wanted me to do some media for them. So I said, yes, do that. That's not a problem. Went and saw a garage, amazing garage, and they serviced me and got me ready, and they wanted a bit of media as well. So it's like, this is great, and somebody else. So basically I got lots of people involved that enabled me to go for 16 days then. And I was running on a budget, but now I'd literally got the wheels to do it. So that's like, I'm going. Yeah. Normally I go away with my rooftop tent and all my kit.
Yeah.
This was not a rooftop tent expedition, not at all.
So where did you stay?
So, well, I Airbnb'd and booking.com and things like that. And I was traveling, I think the longest I drove was about 11 hours in a day. But that was just trying to get up there. So we needed to get photographs of the car, footage of the car because of the wheels and everything for that company in snow before Christmas. So I actually drove down to the Black Forest.
Yeah.
And played around in the snow.
Added miles.
I added miles, went down there, and had an amazing time. Really wanted to go and see the Christmas markets because I've never been to a Christmas market. Everybody said, "Oh, Black Forest German Christmas market, amazing!" We got there, and all the Christmas markets were set up, but they're all finished and closed, and that was it. We never got to see them, but never mind. And then we went from there to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And I started the trip officially at the Little Mermaid. So
yeah, I've been to Copenhagen. We didn't get to the Mermaid.
You didn't go to see her?
No.
Well, it was a bit special for me because when I was a little girl, many, many moons ago, I was on a ship thing with my great uncle, and I was too young to really fully appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we went around in a race, and it ended up at Little Mermaid, and it celebrated one of her birthdays. I don't even know which one. I was very small at the time. And I was the child they chose to put the wreath round her neck.
Wow.
And I had to walk along a little board to her and put the wreath round her neck. So that's so, a bit random. Yeah. But so I started there.
So you said you had 16 days. Is that from there or from here?
No, that was from here.
Wow.
So I started at the Little Mermaid. I did a piece to camera because I did it all on vlogs on my actual Facebook so people could follow it as well. And said, this is what we're doing. We're heading off. I did not know if my Land Rover was going to make the trip, to be honest with you. Everybody said to me, as they always do when I go off with my Land Rover, oh, you can take a Land Rover out, but you're going to need a Toyota to bring you back. Do not say that to me. I've heard it so many times. So the pressure was on.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my Land Rover up there and back. And incidentally, we got to the town just below Nordkapp. And I had a bit of a problem with the Land Rover. I had to go to a garage. And the guy said to me, Land Rover. I said, yeah, I haven't seen any of it like this anywhere up here. He said, no, you won't. We have a saying up here. If you want to have a Land Rover take you in, you need a Toyota to take you out. I couldn't believe it. I've done all those miles and it's still the same saying. So anyway, we left from the Little Mermaid and drove across to Stockholm.
Yeah.
And that began, we are staying in really cheap as I could get, Airbnbs and things like that.
Yeah.
That actually was, that was quite cheap. That you could easily get something £50 and under. And I wanted it with a breakfast because if you had a breakfast, that's one meal included. you could take enough breakfast, as in rolls and ham and every
Shoving it in
cheese,
your pockets.
to take lunch.
Yeah.
And then what we were doing was we were buying some stuff from the supermarket and then cooking that up because I had a cooker and things with me in the car. So
it gets very expensive food-wise when you get to
we didn't have any alcohol with us. We didn't take any alcohol. You do not drink alcohol and even begin to think about driving or anything out there. Just don't do it. So we didn't have any alcohol and we weren't stopping to buy alcohol or eat out or anything. So really on a budget.
Yeah.
Really on a budget. So we went to Stockholm and then from Stockholm across into Finland. And then we went up through Finland and it was beautiful. And then the sun started to go. And as we got nearer to the Arctic Circle, it's getting quite dark. And you do get like a half hour of this weird half light.
Yeah.
And then it goes. But the day sort of before it was really getting dark, we were getting this like orange, red glow, pinky glow. And we'd started the ice roads. And when they say ice roads, they are ice, real ice. It was, I'd got these sort of boots on, which have got good grips on them. My son had got hiking boots on. We got out of the car and could hardly stand up. They are, and I've got videos of him just like sliding across the road with hiking boots on. You know, it's just so, and icicles and things that are just meters long. It was just amazing. So we head off into the Arctic Circle, reached the Arctic Circle at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. Anyway, it's pitch black.
Yeah.
And my biggest mistake was I didn't put extra lights on the car.
Yeah.
A lot of people said, don't do it. You'll get too much glare back from all the snow and the blizzards and everything like that. Actually, you get up there, all the Norwegians, Swedish, sorry, it's been a long day, and Finnish have all got lights all over their vehicles. You do need more lights.
Yeah.
So we got up there, did the Arctic Circle, stopped off, did a piece to camera saying, we've reached it, this is great. And you're on such a high when you're going for a goal. Now, I had to be at Nordkapp. So the sort of North Cape is like these sort of connected island sort of area. And I had to meet a snowplow at 11 o'clock on a certain day. And that was my one chance to get to the actual North Cape itself, to the actual place. And if you don't meet the snowplow at 11, the snow's come in, then that's it. And if it's too snowy, they won't run the snowplow anyway and all this sort of thing. So we had a real goal and a time and everything to aim for.
Is that set up that's not just set up for you though, that's for anyone?
That's for anybody who wants to do it, 11 o'clock.
So how many people turned up to that?
Nobody, just us.
Just you?
It was mental. It was mental. I have driven a lot of vehicles. I've been driving tractors since I was about 9. I've driven a tank. I've flown planes and paramotors, and you know, I've been in trains, and I love engines. I've driven a million different things. I love driving. I did a bit of rallying in my youthful days. I'm not worried about, you know, skidding or anything like that. That was the most manic drive in my life, that particular drive. I have to say, though, that really was. But as you go over the Arctic Circle, you'll be aware of all the lorries now are double Arctics. Yeah. So everything is double Arctic, and you've got very few cars and things really on the roads. You know, we'd be going for hours without seeing another vehicle, and then suddenly you'd have a double Arctic coming through. But because it's as you get near the sort of top there, it's quite flat where the area we were coming from, because we come home on the Norwegian coast, which is really mountainous and beautiful. If it's light, you can see it. But where we were going was quite flat, so you could see a vehicle coming like, I don't know, half an hour away. Wow. Because it was just so flat, and you just see this glow, and it's so dark, and the lights are everywhere. You know, the stars. Sorry. We had blizzards come in that were just absolute whiteouts, and you've got tiny reflectors on the side of the road, so hopefully telling you that you're still on the road.
You don't want to get lost.
You don't want to get lost, and I cannot navigate out of a paper bag. I'm really, really bad for navigation. And once you get over the Arctic Circle, your sat-nav isn't reliable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I was going to bring that one up, because I think you did get lost at one point.
I got really, several points. There were many points.
There was at least one of the videos I remember you saying you'd been lost. And...
Yeah, it was crazy. The sat-nav just gave up completely. I mean, Right. So we learned very quickly that we Google everything at night, and you screen save your route. And things like that, because you're going to be driving in the dark the next day, potentially with no sat nav, and we hadn't got a map.
Yeah.
So we were doing it this way. So it wasn't the most. We didn't set out very well on that one. Everyone out there's thinking, I'll never go with her to some obscene expedition somewhere. She can't even take a map. She can't even take a map. We headed off, and I was like, well, we've been 3 hours now, and the sat nav still hasn't come online. And I'm in a country that I don't obviously have never been in my life, and it's dark.
Must be pretty terrifying.
And it's more like it was more of like, oh well, we'll just keep going north.
Just keep going.
We'll just go that way. It must be north. I hadn't got even a sun to tell me or anything. I couldn't even find the North Star, because normally I can go by the North Star. I couldn't even find that. And there's cloud and blizzards and everything like this, and it was just. And then suddenly on the horizon there was a glow. And I thought, settlement. And if there's a settlement, there'll be Wi-Fi, or there'll be 4G or something, we'll aim for the glow. And we went towards the glow. And it was the most surreal thing ever, because we were in trees and snow and blizzards and just like in the wilderness. It really did feel. We hadn't seen another car, nothing, pitch black, just heading towards this glow.
I'm interested to know where this is heading.
Well, the first thing we came across was a burger pizzeria that said Santa's Grill. And it was like, this is surreal. You've got to be kidding me.
There can't be much business up there.
Yeah, we went round the corner and we had turned up in Santaland. I kid you not. And it was Santaland. It was like turning up into Vegas, I should imagine, for somebody, into the main strip.
Was it busy?
It was mental there. It was absolutely mental. It was packed full of people, loads and loads of Japanese influencers with their cameras, makeup and all this sort of thing. And the girl stood there doing all her piece to camera. We did stop, because you had to, really. It's not every day you get to see Santa's home.
No, sure.
Turned out there were a couple of, Santa was obviously there with his triplet brothers, and because you could go and see Santa for free and pay £50 minimum for the photo, or you could go and see Santa for £80 and get a free photo, or you could, and so on and so forth. Everything was money. It was just. And the gift shops were everywhere. There was the Three Elves restaurant. There was, Santa.
So how were all these people getting there if you didn't see any cars?
And they were coming in buses. There was hotels there. Everything. It was just
wow,
surreal.
Yeah.
You got to bear in mind, we came in the middle of the Arctic winter, so it's dark all the time. So I don't know how much else was supporting this place, but from our point of view, it was just there. We bought sledges and went sledging, which was really stupid, because if I had broken my leg or something, I was
be stuffed.
Potentially, that was a bit daft. But it was an interesting. It was very interesting. But the other thing, we were still trying to get the phone to click in, because I had also, without the whole thing working, I don't know where we were staying that night. I couldn't pronounce it, couldn't remember what it was, hadn't written it down, and had no directions, because it was all locked in my phone. So that was a bit of a hairy moment. And it was like, well, sleeping in our car is not going to be much fun.
I kind of was assuming that you'd stayed at this Santaland.
No, I don't think we could afford it.
No.
I think Santaland was, when my children were little, I used to think, I wish I could take them to Lapland and have this Lapland experience and everything. If that's what it would have been like, I'm glad I didn't, because you would have had to take out a new mortgage to do a week there.
So it was a bit commercialised.
It was so commercialised. And I was too commercialised, but there you go. Says she, who's quite happy, whittling spoons and things like that. So we left Santaland. Eventually managed to get some wide phone coverage and find where we needed to go to, and just left thinking. And we drove out of it and straight into darkness again. Oh, it was just surreal. And then we eventually found our place. And just made our way up. We had lots of problems with the car as we carried on. You get snow build up around the wheel arches, and you have to make sure you get out and take that off, because otherwise your wheels stop going around. You wear your tyres and all sorts of things. A lot of ice build up on the exhaust, which I was not expecting. But as the ice, snow and everything got there, it got hot and it melted slightly and then froze, and then it started to build this huge thing. So I had to, and now we had the sledges from Santaland. I'd lie on the sledge, my son would whistle me under the car, I could chip all the ice off, and then he'd pull me back all the time. So that was great. We were doing that in the end every half hour.
Yeah.
And the snow build up on the car was hard.
Yeah.
And it froze. The car got absolutely encased in ice. There was several days where we only had one door working.
So before you went though, so you obviously didn't get any advice from anyone.
Yeah, I looked into it. I did look into it, and I spoke to a couple of people. Yeah, I did pretty much hit the road. I thought, how hard can it be? You know, they live up there. The Norwegians live up there. The Finnish live up there. The Swedish live up there. And they all carry on with their normal lives. So it can't be that hard. You can always ask somebody because there's always a garage. You know, and I knew how to get oil into my diffs. I knew if the seal's frozen. I'd got special grease guns to put proper grease around all the moving parts underneath, and
I'm assuming you don't get breakdown cover when you're out.
No, so. I did phone up my garage at one point and said, I'm waiting for the courtesy car. How long is it going to take? And he said, I hope you're joking. But you know, I got pretty much what was worrying me, that if anything went wrong with that car electronically, I can do quite a lot mechanically. Yeah. I've grown up with old trucks and vehicles. I've got a really old Land Rover that I literally have to repair to take it out while I take it out when I get back. So, you know, I'm quite used to it. But on these modern vehicles, the electronics is where it all becomes a problem. I got diagnostics, but then if the diagnostics, all they do is say, yeah, this is a problem. You can't do anything about it in this case, so we'll just blank it off. So it's still a problem, but it's not going to, you know, and you just don't know how much more of a problem it's going to be by the time you get there. So it was just, don't go on the electrics. You can start having issues elsewhere. But it did have issues were small, but the two covers that go either side of your windscreen to make your car look nice and smart, they both shattered in the cold. What do you call it? You couldn't obviously, I mean, my screen wash went down to -40 because you buy screen wash as you go up. And that's a good idea to do that. So that went down to -40 in the end. So we had that. The seals froze on the doors, and the doors froze as well. I had some special stuff, but I only really had enough for one door. So I kept the driver door open. And after that, for a few days, we didn't have any other doors. But the seals froze, and the snow's very fine and powdery, and it was being pushed through the car. So we're driving along with snow coming into the car, which then promptly melted. And then the next morning we just had ice inside the car as well. You had to get out and remove the ice regularly off the car because it would destroy the motors on the windscreen wipers, and especially on the back and things like that. But more importantly, it covered your lights. And we found that out the hard way. So we were coming down a road. We'd come up a bit of a mountain. We were coming round a mountain. At the bottom, going along the road, was a double-artic. It was snowy, and there was a lot of snow drifting on the road as well. Because at night, you're just driving in the dark. You're on snow. You've got snow either side of you, and then when the winds pick up, it's just drifting across, and it's really, really hard to see. Like really, really hard. You're concentrating, and you've got another 3-4 hours before you even get to any more civilization. So you got to do that bit. You know, at any point, the car is full. I've got special gripper ramps in the car if I come off the road. I've got avalanche kit. I've got survival kit. I've got, you know, everything in the car. So we don't travel without all of that kit. Yeah. So I've done all of that. The best thing ever is this. This is, if you go around the Arctic or anything like that in the winter, this is amazing. It's a simple car kettle. Get yourself some glog. Glog is awesome. Glog is non-alcoholic. It's a bit like Ribena, and you make a hot drink. Because if you stop at a service station, which you stop at regularly, no matter how little fuel you've lost, if you see a service station open, get your fuel, because you don't know if you're going to be caught in an avalanche or something around the corner. And you also don't know if anything else is going to happen. But also on a Sunday, a lot of them are closed.
Oh.
So you do need to keep fuel. And if it's very tempting to go and buy a coffee, which is quite expensive, and so just a hot drink. Option. Yeah, a hot drink on your drive is brilliant. So
hot Ribena.
Hot Ribena. It just picks you up. Because it's very hard to, you know, you're really concentrating on that road. You are really, and your brain blocks it out, but all you can hear all the time is of your car on the ice. Yeah. Day after day after day. And yeah, it's quite a lot going on.
I mean, it's hard to drive for that long anyway, but then with that level of concentration on top, it must be exhausting.
It's mental. It's mental. And then you've got to watch out for the moose. But that's another story. Anyway, going down the hill, double Arctic, snow everywhere, snow coming this direction, everything else. Came down, there's no way I'm going to overtake this Arctic.
Yeah.
Because there's snow everywhere and he's pushing up to snow. I cannot begin to see past him. I can drop back quite a lot and see that there's nothing coming because it's black. And my sat-nav was telling me it was a straight road because I use the sat-nav a lot to actually see what the road is like in front of you because it's that dark.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to risk it, so I sat back from him. So I sat quite some way back from him. And then I clocked another set of lights coming down the hill as well. And it turned out it was another double Arctic. And he was coming down. Now I'd pulled right back from this other Arctic. So this, I'm going to use your mug here. I don't know if you can see this. So this is the original Arctic. Obviously we'd sort of come a bit close and there was just so much snow here. It was not safe. So I pulled back quite some way, several lengths of that Arctic, and was quite happily tickling along here. This lorry came down behind me and I could see him in my wing mirror. And when you just think, I don't know, this doesn't feel comfortable. I don't like the speed he's doing, and he doesn't seem to be taking into account that we're here. And next thing I knew that this Arctic was coming far too fast to us. And my last words would not have been terribly printable, to be fair. That's terrible. I would have gone to my grave with this particular word on my lips. But I was like, just grabbed my son and grabbed the steering wheel, and it was just like, oh my, and then all of a sudden he started flashing his lights and hooting and everything. And I thought, well, I'm sitting here, mate. I'd moved up here, luckily, because I had such a big distance. It gave me that distance to get there.
Yeah.
Then he went past me and he flew past me and past the other lorry trying to stop. And thank goodness there was nobody coming the other way. And eventually we sort of came out and he sort of did this and came behind us. And I was, because it's not a good place to be between two double Arctics on a pitch black Arctic night on ice roads. Not a good place to be. And then there was a service station. So I pulled into the service station and this Arctic came in behind me. And he got out and started sort of saying in Norwegian. I said, I don't understand. And I said, I don't understand. And he said, are you okay? You okay? And I said, yeah, I am. He said, I said, I'm just a bit shaken up. I'm fine. Thank you. I said, are you okay? And he said, yeah. I couldn't see you. He said, the ice. And I hadn't realised at this point how bad the ice was getting on the back of the car. This is the first time I got to this part of the Arctic to take on this. And it had frozen so thick on the back of my car that it was nearly an inch thick in ice, and it had covered all my lights, and I'm in a black car. So he hadn't seen us at all until the last minute. And he said, I was flashing and everything to tell you to stay in because I was going to go straight past. I said, well, I didn't dare pull out because I had the choice between you smashing into the back of that one or me pushed out into the thing coming the other way. So everybody was fine. But from that point, it was like every half hour, 20 minutes or so, if I think that car's getting a lot of ice on the back, we stop and get it off and get those lights showing. That was really, really important. So that was a bit hairy. Moose. Yeah. Reindeer. Yeah. They sort of meandered around the road, sort of a bit of mooching.
I suppose if they don't see that much traffic, they wouldn't be...
they sort of just do their little thing. Occasionally they trot, but on the whole, they just mooch around the place. And if they're owned by the Sami, they have reflective paint painted on their antlers, or they have little bits of reflective tape tied to them. Moose, whole other ball game. Whole other ball game.
I mean, they're pretty big, aren't they?
They are big. We gate crashed a guy who keeps moose down southern Sweden, because I wanted to know more about the ecology of moose and things. And we were able to drive around this park he'd got and meet his moose. And he said, stay in your car because they are a bit jerks. Jerk is how he described a moose. Yeah. And I'd never seen them in life like that. And they are huge. I mean, one of them just walked up and just rested its head on top of my car. And I'm in a big four-wheel drive. And you can really see that your bonnet would cut them off at about where their legs join onto their bodies. And then you'd have that whole trunk come in. And they are responsible for a lot of deaths. Yeah. And it's because we've put roads between their habitats. They just run. But what they do is they just run across. And so you got like
Are they fast?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they've got great big long legs for going through the snow. So they just plow through.
Just don't imagine them being fast, being that. Whenever I see a video, they're kind of plodding along.
Yeah, no, they can move. And you can't, because it's dark, you can't see, and you've got trees either side of you, or it's just dark. But in the tree line, because they're down where the tree line is, just trees everywhere. Lots of snow because the snow plows have pushed all the snow up. And then these moose would just explode out of the side and then skid around the road and just disappear off the other side. And we
definitely don't want to hit one.
Well, we had 6 near misses.
Yeah.
And then we had one that came out and just slipped down, and he fell down beside the car and caught himself on the side of the car, got up and then just ran off, but he took the trimming off the side of my car with him.
Oh.
And then we saw another double-artic come off the road because it had a moose come out, and he just moved the Arctic, and it sort of slid, and he went straight into the bank and the trees. So we did stop and make sure he was okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're not going to come off well against a moose in a car.
No, they really were dangerous. They really were dangerous, and you had very little warning of them, so you had to be online for that.
They taste good though.
Yeah.
For a food podcast, just to say.
Well, I did eat moose. I ate reindeer and everything else. Very lucky because I wanted to meet lots of Sami people, because I've been out to the Arctic earlier on in the year where I'd gone in a dog sled and gone across part of the Arctic and met up with the Sami, and I wanted to meet up with the Sami again. So we arranged to meet up with some, and they're just such lovely people. And we went out to where they're going, and it was lovely because when we arrived there, we hadn't seen the Northern Lights at all at this point. We are almost at Norcat, and we still haven't seen the Northern Lights. And my son said, "Oh, what's that up in the sky?" And I said, "Oh, I think that might be the Northern Lights," because we'd had them down here, but you had to look through your camera and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember being a bit disappointed because I thought you see them green like everybody shows them, but there was definitely something going on in the sky. No, so we stopped the car. Now you cannot just stop the car there. You have to make sure you got somewhere to get off the road because they're ice roads. You don't just stop on them. So we got off the road and put the cameras up, and the whole sky was dancing, and it was doing the whole Northern Lights thing, the real.
I only seen them once in Iceland.
Wow.
But it was a cloudy day, so you could kind of see through glimpses in patches of cloud. I never got the full.
Well, we saw them so much that we stopped looking at them. That's how often they were out. Yeah, that's how we had them non-stop for about 6 days.
I can't imagine getting tired of watching
it. It was in the end you were like, I have to keep driving because it's just, and I've got photographs of the bonnet of the car, the snow road, the moose and reindeer signs, warning signs, and then the Northern Lights just snaking above us. And I've got photographs of the car with them snaking above us. I've got photographs of my son and myself with them. They were just amazing. It's been an incredible year for solar fairs. So, and then, we went up and went out with the Sami and saw the reindeer and went off and had a long time talking to them because obviously climate change is something I'm interested in. And they've got big problems because they never had rain in winter. And now they're getting really, really cold temperatures that they had before. Then really mild temperatures they haven't really had. Then they're getting rain. And then it's going freezing cold again. So they're getting ice everywhere. And the reindeer can't get through the ice to get to the food.
They eat moss?
They eat lichens, berries, all sorts of different things, and they can't get through. And if they don't get up to weight, they can't get pregnant, or they won't ovulate. Another thing they'll do is if they're not up to weight, but they have got pregnant, they'll have their calf and then just ignore it. And they have wolverines and lynx and all sorts of things that eat them very quickly, and all this sort of thing. So. And the Sami, it was really interesting for me to talk to them from an ecology point of view, also from a farming point of view, because they're using satellite data tracking, they're using thermal imaging drones and all that sort of thing now, so it's really interesting talking about all of that. And then we sort of, I was really lucky because I spent some time with them about various other things, and we just, I'm going back hopefully to be part of the reindeer migration, which I'm really excited about. Wow. And I met this amazing guy called Niles, who's just absolutely brilliant. And he gave me one of their family songs. he taught me this song, and which I'm not going to do.
I was going to say, are you going to do that for us now?
That's
No.
unfair.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And go.
Yeah. And it was just really good because they're holding on to their culture. They're keeping their culture alive.
Yeah.
And they're also really modern people.
Yeah.
Really, and everything else. So it was just lovely to spend time with them. And I felt very honoured for the time that I was with them.
And they're quite oppressed too, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
There's a lot of racism against
There is
the Sami.
unfortunately quite a lot of racism up there with them, and they've had a hard time. Like any, as I said to Niles, you've had a hard time. And he's like, yes, we're like any country, any place which has been colonized, and they're not warring people. They weren't warring people. They were nomadic.
Yeah.
So they hadn't got an army or anything to defend themselves. So basically, they just got their carved up and but they've got their own parliament now, and they've got their own flag. We went to their parliament actually, and they've got their language back again, and they're building themselves back up again, and they are now being seen as synonymous with Lapland and all of that, so they're getting there, but they're still having the odd bit, definitely. Which is really bad. And then we made it to Nordkapp, and then we had a 4-hour dash to get to the snowplow.
Yeah.
And you go through lots of tunnels, and then you come out the tunnel. You go into the tunnel, and then you can sort of boot it a bit because you're on the concrete in the tunnel. But you've got to slow down before you come out the tunnel. Otherwise, you come out the tunnel like a billiard ball because you're back on the ice. And I did go across one ice road that was on top of a lake. And that was really cool because we went from on the road to as you drove across it, you could hear
Sounds
it.
a bit sketchy.
Yeah, you could, and you have to have the windows down. So if I
in case you go through.
That was really cool. That was really cool. I loved that. It did make me even go a little bit like, ooh, ooh. And then we just did lots of different things. But then we did get up to Nordkapp and onto the actual cape itself, and we went and saw the sculptures and everything else. And I mean, we were there in the dark and the freezing cold, and it was a moment where you thought, God, I just did that. It's crazy. I just, if you'd seen what I'd driven through to get there, it was mental. We had avalanches and all sorts.
But then you have to come back.
Yeah, then you turn around and come back. Which was a mere, I think, something like 3,000 miles or something. 4, I can't remember how long it was now.
What do you say, 16 days?
Yeah. So, and you do have a bit of a plummet.
Wow.
You do have a little bit. Once you've got to a goal, you're so focused on a goal.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got a time schedule and everything.
Yeah.
That when you've done the goal, it's a bit like,
now what?
And then we had the Northern Lights, and then we met various other people because I love meeting people and talking to people. We met lots of different people, and as we came down the Norwegian coastline, of course, the sun started to come up, and you started seeing this amazing scenery, just beautiful. And what really struck me is that the Scandinavians are, especially up north, away from the big cities and things, they are so clean. They're so respectful of their environment. Their word for landscape and all the rest of it is nature. They at weekends, especially Sundays, is family time. Things close and they go off and spend family time. Everything's about the family and it's just community and all that, which you have to do if you're in an environment. Which is, but it was just so lovely, but it was just so pristine. And yes, there is a lot of mining going on and things like that. But on the whole, they try and keep everything. You didn't see litter on the side of the roads or anything like that.
Because I think a lot of the Norwegian economy is based around oil, isn't it?
Yeah, oil, fishing, mining. It's resource-based, definitely. And that's another problem the Sami have got, that they don't want their lands being mined and things. And wind farms, they're very against wind farms. Yeah. Because they say the wind belongs to the reindeer. So, they don't want to see it.
That's an interesting concept.
And the turbines would potentially affect the way the reindeer move and the things and vibrations. And they're all sorts of different things. So they've got various reasons why they're not keen. Yeah. And they say, what people won't stop. They look at how they're looking at Greenland now. That's the same sort of thing. Everybody's desperate for these resources. Whereas they said if you look after the land, it will give you everything that you need. But of course, we live in a different life, but we want mobile phones and all
As
these
you said,
things.
they're already kind of modernizing and using tracking devices and
exactly. So then we sort of, we went down the roads, and then we saw this amazing moose sculpture that is huge. It's the biggest sculpture in the world, or something like that. Massive moose, and it's fantastic. It's made out of metal. And you see, if things are really cold, you don't touch them when they're metal. Because I walked up to it thinking, oh, it's so beautiful, look at it. And it's like,
don't lick it.
It's really cold. But the sun's now coming up. And then we're back into the tree line, because the most amazing time for me, the trees are beautiful. And I love to see the trees. And they get very Christmas card and very pretty. And you've got all the red buildings and the little farmsteads and everything. It's very, very pretty, and it's very Scandi, and it's just lovely. And then you're up very north, and there's got the reindeer and things. But when you get out on the tundra, it's just open expanse. And that to me is actually more beautiful than anything else. Being up there,
it's a bit sketchy to me.
Yeah, no, being up there, we one day we had a day where we didn't see any other cars on the roads, and it was just us. And there was one stretch in particular, it's like this plateau of tundra, and we were able to pull the car over and got out, locked the car up. I mean, no need to lock it up, no one's there, and it's all frozen in 5 minutes anyway. And got my backpack and everything, my son, and we just went. Not so far, we were too far away from the car, because you have to be careful because the weather changes and it's dark, so you can't really see if the clouds are coming in or whatever. But so you've got to be a bit sensible. But we just went out I wanted him to experience that isolation sort of thing, for us.
Were you ever worried about being that isolated? Because you already said you lost sat nav. So what would you have done if you got stuck?
Yeah, well, because I've got everything in my car. I've got all my survival kit in the car and everything else. I think I've never been in a situation really that there's not somebody comes along and helps. And I know people say, oh, there's an element of danger. Yeah, there is an element of danger, but it's so rare. It's so rare. Most people are just like you and I.
Yeah.
And will help you. Most people speak English, and that's so lazy of us that we expect everyone to speak English, but people do speak English. I always learn please, thank you, hello, goodbye, at the very least in any language of any place I go, and try and learn words just to show respect of where I am, and to also adhere to their cultures and things, because I think it's the right thing to do when you go to someone's country. But I had all my kit on me, and I'm pretty happy with what I've got. I've literally got all the expedition kit with me. I'm almost overkill, to be honest with you. I've got independent battery packs that are fully charged. I've got serious kit up there. A diesel heater, independent diesel heater. Everything is so.
So, was your son ever worried?
No, because he just relies on me.
Trusted you.
He's like, I didn't even realise how dangerous I think the Arctic thing was until it was over. Even the moose, he's like, oh, there's another moose, Mum. It's like, yes, there's another moose. No, I don't think he quite got it. No. But when we went out into that bit and just sat there for a minute, and because I know what the Arctic, I'd taken a dog's leg out into the middle of nowhere and stopped, and when the dogs were finally quiet, it is nowhere. I was running those dogs, and all you'd hear was padding of their feet, the breathing, and the sledge slides, and that is it. That's the only sound. Yeah. And our world is so full of sound.
Even when we think we're remote.
Yeah, there's a ruddy plane going overhead or something. So I wanted to take him somewhere which was just, this is a humbling experience. We have an amazing planet. It's incredible, and we're such a tiny part of it, and we should respect it and look after it and do what we can for it. It is us. We're just this little blue and green ball in the middle of blackness. Yeah. So I want you just to sit down for a minute and just experience what it's like to be away from everything. And it's very calming.
So the question is, I guess, did it work? Does he now want to learn to drive?
He still hasn't learned to drive yet, but he is now more onto it. Yeah. It was the best thing we ever did. We came back best friends. I mean, we spent every day together, and to keep the money down, we were sleeping in the same room at night, and sometimes in the same double bed, but you'd have single duvets, because it's Scandinavia, you have, and often in Europe in general, you have 2 duvets, so he could sleep his side and I could sleep my side. But it was a good way to keep your money down, the price down.
Sure.
But he did, that was a big ask of any lad, really. And I said to him, look, we're going to probably have the odd fallout because we might get tired, might get hungry. We've got to be really careful neither of us gets hangry, and always make sure there's food and things going. But if we get narky with each other, we must turn around and say, look, sorry, I'm hungry, or I'm tired, or I've got a headache, and then just kick back on, because we've got no choice but to do this. And we had probably about 5 times where we snapped at each other, which is not bad in 16 days.
That's pretty good going, I'd say.
With your son who's left home and is a big adult, and now suddenly he's back with mummy, that's quite hard. But we came back and it's done. We are even closer than we were before now.
Nice.
And we had a real adventure together, and we did have some serious moments doing this, and it was brilliant. So
are you advocating more parents take their kids on crazy adventures?
I think you should. I think you should do something that challenges you.
Push it. Push the boundaries a little.
Yeah, because if never take your child to something that's really dangerous, knowingly dangerous and unsafe. I knew we were in a big 4-wheel drive. We got the decent tyres on. I'd got all the kit in place.
Yeah.
I'd got all my stuff. I'm first aid trained and all the rest of it. I've got mechanics and all these sort of things. I've got a lot of experience of driving on skiddy surfaces, everything. So I knew that we'd be pretty safe, but I also knew we were going to face some challenges, and we certainly did. But that sort of brought you together.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're not allowed to experience danger. And there's such a thing as, can I say this, as safe danger? As in, you don't want to throw your kid off a cliff without a parachute, a line or anything. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
But if you took your child abseiling, that's danger, but safe danger. And it gets that person to feel an elation that I've done this.
Yeah.
And when you've got a little bit of threat, it bonds you. So I think everybody should do something. We don't let our kids do what we want because we're so frightened of them getting hurt. And I had a really feral childhood. And I grew up in the countryside on a farm, getting lost, going off. I mean, I'd go off all day as a very young child. No mobile phones, nothing.
Yeah.
And I'd eat. If I got hungry, I knew what I could eat. And everything else. I mean, God, even when I had my own boys, I was like, don't want them going off. What if they pick the wrong thing? What if they eat something that's going to poison them? I wouldn't let them out my sight for 5 minutes. And that's me.
Do you know, I've had people criticise videos when I've done little shorts of my daughter picking wild garlic.
Yeah.
And people criticise that. Yeah, what if she picks the wrong thing? Which she won't, because I've showed her which ones to pick. She knows the difference between that and Lords and Ladies.
Yes, exactly. You teach your children. I've been taught.
Yeah.
And I did teach my children, but I had this innate fear inside me. My parents never had the same sort of fear. And I think it's because we've been brought up with all this, everything's dangerous around you. And
it's because it is.
It is dangerous, but you've got to live.
24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
It gets us all.
Yeah, and you've got to, and that's what I loved about the Norwegians. They're like, oh, I'm going to go off ice fishing. Yeah, that's. I've done my tests. I know that ice is thick enough. Now I'm going to walk across it, drill a hole, sit out in my shed, and go ice fishing. And it's Sunday, and I'll have my son out here, and we'll go ice fishing together. We'll catch the fish. We'll go home. We'll gut the fish together, and we'll cook them. And that's great. We just don't live like that so much here. But they had a huge respect to their environment and their natural environment and everything living in it. And I do wonder whether, because we're not out in our wilds like that, I don't know.
Maybe it's because we don't have anything that wild.
No, I mean, wherever you go, there's somebody else. I always say I feel sorry for rats, because every poor rat, within a metre of every poor rat, there's at least one other human.
Yeah.
I do feel sorry for them. But you need to go out and explore. Which brings me around to this. This is a drone. I love drones, as you know. I use drones for lots of different things. Yeah. Took a drone with me to Norway. Thought it'd be amazing. Get lots of shots of the car going up to North Cape and all this sort of thing. It's dark. So it was a dead loss taking the drone up there. Didn't think about the Arctic winters being as dark as that. But on the way back, we came back, we were in the tree line, the sun's starting to come. We had one particular beautiful morning where we were just driving down, and it was just a river running alongside us, with big chunks of ice going along it, trees that looked like they should be on top of a Christmas cake with a bit of icing on top. Just beautiful, really, really tall. And I said to my son, this is it. This is your moment. You can fly the drone, and I'm going to take the car down there, and we're going to get it through. We'll get this really nice big footage for this car coming through, and that'll come down, and I'll take photographs and slice it in with the tyres. This will be great for the wheel company.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I said, you know what you're doing? Yeah, and everything else. Anyway, so he gets out to fly the drone. And I go down the road, and then he does the sign to come, and so I'm driving through these trees, and the shot would have been amazing because, of course, you've got these really tall trees and down the bottom, and he's flying the drone backwards like this, and and then next thing I could see him stop, and he's sort of like this, and I'd see him turning round, and he's doing all this, and when you just got that sixth sense that something's wrong. So I drove up to him and said, "What's up?" He said, "I've crashed the drone." This is a maiden flight. This is your moment. I've just driven all these miles and brought you with me, and this was your moment as a drone operator. And what? And he said, yeah. And he said, it's the top of that tree up there. And this tree was, I don't know, 30 meters, and it was the tallest tree ever. And the drone was right at the very top. You just hear the bleep of it at the very top, and literally at the where's your thing? It's at the very top of the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And it's like, get up the tree. Well, I'm not going up there. I said, well, I'll try and get up there. Well, I think I can do everything like I'm 20, but of course I'm not. So I'm trying to get up this tree, and the nearest branch is about 6 foot up, and I hadn't got the strength to do it. I'm thinking about pushing him up there, and then I'm thinking, well, realistically, that one of us is going to die trying to get this drone back. What are we going to do? It's brand new, this drone as well. And it's just like, I'm not leaving it up there. So I said, right, we're going to go and find a farm. Because farmers, from experience and long line, we can sort anything out. We can do anything because that's how it is. A farmer will somehow have a personnel carrier that reaches up, or he'll do, because he lives in this environment, he will know about these trees or whatever. Even if you have to chainsaw the tree down or something, I'm joking. So we found a farm, and he'd got the farmer said, yeah, I said, look, we'll pay you, whatever. Can you help us get the drone down somehow, please? And he said, I can't, but my son can. I said, oh, right. He said, I'll go and wake him up. He's upstairs in bed because it's Saturday morning. He said, I'll go and wake my son up. So this lad comes down, and he gets in the car, and he can speak really good English, and he's a really nice lad. And he said, oh, yeah, where is it? And we told him. He said, oh, I'll see how high up it is. I said, it's really high. It's like the highest tree of all. And he said, oh, it won't be too bad. We'll see what the branches are like at the bottom. So we drove there, and he got out, and he walked over to this tree, and he went through the branches, put his hand up until he found one that was quite hard, firm, because a lot of ones are quite dead at the bottom, pulled himself up through his upper body strength, swung himself onto this branch, and then cleared the snow off, and he went all the way to the top of this tree. Just clearing snow off as he went.
Yeah.
And he said, I got your drone. And I'll put it in a pocket. And he puts it in the pocket and comes all the way back down, like a monkey. I mean, just shot up this tree. It was so tall. Came all the way back down and handed us the drone. And I said, well, you've done that before, haven't you? He said, oh, I've grown up climbing these trees.
English people lose their drones a lot.
Yeah, but we get scared about letting our child go on one little branch in a tree. This lad just went, boom, straight up the top of this tree. 30 foot at least.
Yeah.
Straight up there, no worries. And he'd been doing that, and his parents knew he did that, and his dad was like, yeah, take him, he'll go up the tree and get it for you. Not a rope, nothing.
Wow.
And, because we spend our lives thinking about risk assessments, but risk assessments are there to keep us safe. And you're in you could be sued, you could get into trouble. Nobody wants to injure anybody else.
No.
Hopefully. But just sometimes I think it's good to let your children do something a little bit out of it, and to do that activity with them. Because they're looking at you all the time. And my son was like, I said to him several times, I said, were you worried about that? And he's like, no. Why did I need to be worried? You know what you're doing. Oh, well, I'm glad I do. You know, it's...
One day he'll realise that you don't.
Yeah, but I'm literally going by the seat of my pants.
Because we all think our parents know what they're doing.
Don't they just?
Yes. And then you realise you grow up to a certain age where you go, oh, they didn't know either. They were just winging it.
It's really scary, isn't it? Because you think your parents just went to, I don't know, they just became parents as in some blinding light and you're a parent. And so you've been downloaded with all this information, how to be a parent and everything. And then one day you stand there and you're a child with your own child, basically.
My dad said this to me just the other day. And he said, you know, no one can prepare you for that. And you just have to be a parent.
Yeah.
You just have to know what to do.
Yeah. It's very hard.
So, yeah.
It's very, very hard. It is very hard being a parent, I must admit. But no, it was great. And I've been very lucky in the places I've been and the people. I always make time to go and see the people and making. I am not a package holiday person. I'm not a cruise person yet. I still consider. Oh,
there's still time.
No, at the moment I still consider cruises as a prison with the option of drowning. But I do love the wilds, and I love meeting the people who live and work in those environments. And as I said, I'm doing a lot of work with climate change and things and the impacts.
Yeah.
So those are the people I need to speak to as well. Yeah. And it was amazing. It was just an incredible experience. But yeah, it was a road trip. It was a road trip. I came back and my car came back with me.
Still here.
Still here. I took a Land Rover up to the North Cape and I brought a Land Rover back.
Do you know if anyone else has ever done it in a Land Rover?
People do go off and do it, but they normally do it in groups.
Yeah.
And there's not many women that are just over 50 deciding to do it on their own in the middle of the Arctic winter. No, that seems to be a bit rarer. Even the Norwegians up there were like, we just don't get this. In the summer, loads of people come up here. It's really easy in the summer. Yeah. It's a beautiful coastal road and lots of people drive up with their campers and things like that. And then in the winter, you get the off-roading clubs and things will come through and things like that. He said, but it's very rare. He said it's really rare to get a woman. In fact, they were so great when I got up there. The snowplow guy, when we met him, he said, "Oh, you're going to be the only vehicle. We're right on the edge of whether we can actually do it today." I was like, "Oh, please, because I've just driven all the way up here and it's just me." And he's like, "Well, you've done all this on your own?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, well, that's good on you, you know." And then when we got up the top there, they let me park my car right near the centre just for a few photos, and they brought all their snowplows around and put the lights on, and so we had this just to show it all off. Yeah. And we actually got out the Union, the British flag as well, and put that out. And they said, that was quite impressive, and the weather hasn't been ideal. So yeah,
you're breaking stereotypes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
Don't stop having adventures. I've got a sparkle in my eyes. I'm smiling, and all the rest of it's because I have adventures. Have adventures. Adventures are not just for children. And if you can, you can do things like that within a budget. Do
you mind if I ask how much it cost you in the end?
I haven't fully calculated it. I did. I did get a sponsorship for a lot of things.
Yeah.
To make it go. Yeah. We wouldn't have been able to do it quite like we did. But it didn't. If you work out on average, it cost me about £40 a night. And then some food and things on top. It wasn't that expensive. It was fairly cheap. It would have come in less, but again, I had sponsorship for wheels and fuel and a few other things. So basically, if it would have been really expensive to do without it, probably would have been quite expensive. But with that help, it actually came in less than if I'd probably taken a package holiday for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and it was a much better venture.
So I guess the question is whether you would do it again, or have you done it now?
I've sort of done that. Yeah. I drove all across the Alps and the Dolomites and everything, and that sounds really bad. I was doing ecology work and I drove across them. That sounds really, really bad. But I've got all my kit in my car, all my sampling kit, everything. So and I took my rooftop tent and I stayed at campsites all the way along. And I actually took a girlfriend of mine with me, and we just had a great time. Again, meeting farmers and herders and understanding and vets and everybody, because I wanted to understand an awful lot of stuff. And that wasn't that expensive. Again, you've got to be prepared to cook for yourself and, shop at a supermarket and, the biggest expense is probably fuel.
Yeah.
Fuel's my big expense, I would say. But then you're offsetting that by the fact you're not paying for a plane flight or hiring a car. So it's for the moment, traveling around the world with my tent and everything else is still working out cheaper than if I go on a plane and hire cars or do anything. And I've got that freedom, which I need, because I need to go off and to have that interaction with people.
Yeah.
And often when I'm going places, people will say, "Oh, this is what you're into," and you had that conversation, and then I'll say, "Right, yes, well, so and so would love to meet you because they're interested in it." Whatever. I'm going back from the work that I did when I went across Europe in September last year.
Yeah.
August and September. I'm now going back to work in Switzerland, helping regenerative farmers set up in Switzerland, which is all about soil health and that sort of thing. I'm going back to Finland in June or July, I can't remember now. Next month I'm going to Switzerland, and then I'm going back to Finland to talk at the European Grasslands Conference, and then to spend a few days going out and looking at all their different types of special grasslands and having a knowledge swap and everything.
Yeah.
So, and that's all these things have happened from making those bridges, and we're all swapping that information, and the information I get over there that might help us over here with climate and carbon and everything else, I can bring back with me. So it's communication. I would say it's networking, but I can never remember the name of the people I meet. So I'm so bad at remembering who people are.
And you said to me earlier you're going back to see the Sami again.
I'm hoping to go back to see the Sami. They have said that if I'd like to go back and take part in the migration.
That would be amazing.
I
nearly said immense then. I'm tired.
No, it's going to be immense. Which I'm hoping will happen. Obviously, that's something I will cover my costs to get out there and everything, and then and I will make sure that I'm giving something back to them. So I would like to do some things that I can help them out with as well, because that will be just amazing. I've been very lucky, the adventures I've had, because of the people I've met, because of their kindness and having that ability to be interested in similar things. Definitely. But I've been just lucky with amazing people.
My mind went off on a different track. I started to think it would be interesting because you've got like these different cultures like the Sami. We'll use them as an example because that's what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether there is any possibility of almost like a skill swap.
Yeah, definitely.
In some respect, I don't know.
I'm hoping to learn a lot about the plants they're eating and everything else. And what was really interesting was, obviously, when you're up there, all fruit and vegetables are being brought in. Everything like that's being brought in. Now, historically, what were they doing to get all their vitamins and minerals certainly in the this long dark winter?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because they eat reindeer.
Yeah.
But as they very clearly pointed out to me, reindeer are sort of roaming all the time, browsing and eating berries and lichens and grasses and all sorts of different plants. And these plants are growing naturally on all different types of ground. And they are absorbing all the minerals and everything else. And the reindeer are keeping those in their meat and everything. So they're getting, the Sami people are getting all that they needed from the reindeer meat that are getting, and the reindeer are getting all that they need from the plants they're eating. And the plants are getting everything they need from the soil they're on, and so on and so forth. And that's a beautifully correct and healthy system.
I wonder if it's healthy for humans though, to be eating just meat essentially.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they were doing up there. I mean, they have fish, of course, pickled fish. I love pickled fish. Not everybody's cup of tea, but I love it.
Yeah.
I used to started eating it in the car quite a lot, but that had a little bit of a family relationship problem. It does smell quite bad. I was having to sort of open my tin, have some, and then I had to close my tin over, and then I got a bungee thing. I could have it sort of like outside the car. But they would also, they'd have things that they dried, berries that they could dry and things like that. But I want to know more about that. I want to know more about living off the land like they did, and have that sort of knowledge exchange. I've got the knowledge exchange that I can give with them with how we look at parasites and breeding and all sorts of things, and having that interaction with them. So it's really
Yeah.
exciting. It's really
I
exciting.
kind of want to talk to someone from the Sami people now and talk about their food.
They are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could probably be arranged. I've got somebody who could probably help you.
Ooh,
Definitely. Definitely.
that could be good.
It's just lovely. And
Yeah.
and they were saying, you know, they like they do wear modern clothing, of course they do.
Yeah.
But they still hanker back to a lot of their old clothing.
I would imagine the old clothing's probably more effective.
It's more effective and
Yeah.
it's quieter.
Yeah.
And he said this, and you can really tell it. You know, when Niles walked across the area, he's quiet. Can't hardly hear him on the pads and things. Anybody else walking across, and all your Gore-Tex and everything, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you know, yeah, it's that warmer sort of clothing as well.
I mean, kind of what I know about that, I know I said to you earlier, is the Bruce Perry series, where he went around with the Sami people and the reindeer herders. And I can remember him having to put on like the big coats and
yes,
yeah,
I'd love to. And you see the traditionally where the children are also like stitched inside their clothing, you know, because it is cold up there. I mean, where I was, you could have got frostbite when it really got cold. But the big problem they're getting is fluctuations in the weather. Climate change is having a big effect. Definitely. And we know this. We know this because, I mean, simple things like the secrets of the ice with everything that's being melted out of the ice sheets. You know, that those prehistoric Neolithic arrowheads and things that have never seen the light of day are now being exposed.
Yeah. I mean, it swings and roundabouts.
It does. I'm waiting for a female Ötzi. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Ötzi, please look up Ötzi if you're following his podcast. Hopefully you know Ötzi.
Should know
Ötzi. So Chalcolithic, which is sort of early Chalcolithic going into Bronze. Well, no, he's Chalcolithic, which is the period before Bronze Age.
Yes, someone pointed that out to me the other week because I said he was Bronze Age.
No, he's Chalcolithic. But that's because we don't really have a Chalcolithic period as such in the UK.
Yeah.
So we don't sort of. It's not big on our radar. But he was murdered and died, and he was very lucky because he died and dropped into a little bit of a crevassy bit, so the glacier, because it is a glacier there, but the glacier went over the top of him, and because he was in the crevassy bit, it didn't grind him to powder, and that's probably what it's done to a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So when he melted out, and he'd melted out a bit once before because he's got a bit of sun damage to the top of his head.
I didn't know that.
So he had been melted out before.
Yeah, he was shot with arrows?
Yeah, shot with an arrow in the back.
Because possibly might have been a thief or something.
Yeah, he wasn't even properly equipped for the journey he was doing. His arrows weren't even properly fletched.
But I gather wasn't some of his equipment a bit too fancy for.
Yeah, he's got copper axe.
Whether he'd like stolen something maybe and got shot.
They didn't take the copper axe. They didn't take anything from him. So he might perhaps.
Did he fall somewhere though, and then they couldn't get to him, or?
I don't know the full thing. I did go and see him when I was in South Tyrol. I did go and see him, and it's amazing because he's lying. You look through a little window, and he's in a temperature-controlled room, and you can see all the tattoos on him.
Yeah. Is it in Italy?
In Italy, yeah. Blonzo, I think it is Blonzo.
I wonder if I can get someone from the museum to chat to me.
It's really interesting.
They'd obviously know more about who he was and.
The best thing I hadn't. I mean, there's so much kit with him. There's so much kit. If you get a chance to go. Loads of kit. And but he had a long coat that's slightly tailored, and it's goat skin, and it's in stripes, big stripes, about that wide.
Yeah.
And they're white and black. White. And I'll tell you what, if he was wearing that, walking across the zebra crossing in Liverpool or wherever it was, doing the Beatles thing, he wouldn't have looked amiss. That coat is just. But no, it's amazing. But he told us so much about that period because he was dressed to live.
Yeah.
And not a grave. But of course it's a man, and it would be really nice. And I'm not saying this in any other way other than it would just be really nice to see a woman who's dressed for just everyday life with all her everyday living things on her in the same scenario. That would be amazing.
I'm going to jinx myself a little bit now, but you know there's a new book, the bog fashion book.
Ooh.
That's just come out. Nicole, I think it's DeRushy.
Yes.
And she's coming on the podcast very soon to talk about prehistoric fashion.
There's some amazing, because there's a girl with the big bronze buckle.
Yeah.
And
so I haven't got hold of the book yet, so I don't know a lot about what's in the book. I'm waiting for my copy, but I'm going to get a copy, and in the next month I'm supposed to be talking to Nicole.
That would be really cool.
It will all link together.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very cool. No, there's some beautiful stuff from those bog burials because it's been so well preserved.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's because you never know if you're going to get the animal-based stuff preserved or the plant stuff preserved, or or is wood going to be still there or whatever, but occasionally you get everything.
So I haven't seen the book myself yet, but I gather that obviously there are some interpretations of what things might have been. And I believe, I don't know if it's in the book, but I think she made some kit for Neil. Burridge.
Yes.
I'd say Burridge in case anyone doesn't know.
Yeah, I think she
we
did.
know Neil, but
yes,
I'm pretty sure she made some kit for Neil.
I think she did. Yes.
I'm talking in very much thinks and stuff, but
yeah. No, I think she might have done.
Yeah.
No, it's just that you just it's so much more tangible if you can see these artifacts from that well preserved, how beautifully made they are, and how tailored they are, and everything just incredible. And he had everything on him to survive.
Yeah,
he had everything. He just didn't survive. Somebody had it in for him.
I think there's some new textiles that have just, I don't know if they've gone on display yet or will go on display at the Cranach Centre. But they're like this big, like these tiny fragments of textile.
You need to get someone from Must Farm as well to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because I haven't followed the story yet on the because they had all that beautiful yarn balls, Cordish balls and things, and I think there's wool balls. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but there's definitely fibres, and whether they were dyed or not.
I never read that bit of the report, I'll be honest. I
focused
on the food.
No, I need to talk. I was going to talk to Sally about it, Sally Pointer, when she was last here, and I forgot to talk to her about that. Because I remember it being charred on the outside, and whether they must have the ability to find out what it's like on the inside.
Yeah, they would.
So there's so many great discoveries going on, isn't there?
Yeah. And technology, I mean, as much as sometimes we might complain about it, it has its advantages.
Definitely.
We're doing like isotope analysis, so we know exactly what people were eating. Utsi had goat in his stomach.
Yes,
we know he was eating goat. That was his last meal, as well as wearing it. So, these advances are very good.
It's very exciting, and there's a lot going on at the moment as well, isn't there, with this Egyptian thing with the pyramid and what's going on underneath it. That's become a real late night video, sort of watching conspiracy theories. Did the aliens do it? There's lots going on with that.
That's from my other show.
I was going to say we'll find out what's going on with that one as well at some point. No, it's a great time to find stuff because the technology now is enabling us to find so much.
Yeah.
I did a Jurassic and Ice Age dig on the same site last year, and I'll be doing it again this year.
You found the dwarf mammoth?
This is where we found a straight-toothed elephant, a straight-tusked elephant, and also mammoth and steppe bison, Neanderthals, all sorts of stuff, and then we also it's all laid over. Some Kellaway's material, and also this amazing Jurassic material. And so we've got ammonites and a rare crocodile skull.
Wow.
Jurassic crocodile and all sorts of stuff. So that was a crazy dig. And then I've sort of been involved in some other digs, which are World War II. Band of Brothers, that sort of thing. And then also I'm going off to take part in a rather exciting dig I can't tell you too much about, but it's Iron Age.
Ooh.
So I'm having quite a lot.
We focused on your journey for like
mad,
an hour, and then all at the end you're just like, oh yeah, and there's this
there's all this other stuff I'm doing as well.
So that's another episode.
Well, I'm a polymath, you see, because I'm agriculture, I'm ecology, I'm entomology. Never get away from my dung beetles, and archaeology, and geology. I do geology as well. So you just understand the world.
So I think next time I'm back, we should focus on the digs and the stuff.
Do you think we do the digs?
Because I think like that was a very brief summary of, and then there was this, just as a side note.
Yeah.
I think maybe,
Yeah, do the digs.
Next time you're on, we'll talk about digs.
The digs are really exciting, and I'd love to talk to you about the digs because I'm working with a group called Operation Nightingale.
Yeah.
So I'd love to give that a shout out too. So
a brief shout out, but we'll stick a pin in it.
All right, we'll stick a pin in it. So, okay.
Yeah. I know you're desperate to. But I also don't want, I think, like, if you do it quickly, you're not doing it justice.
No, we will do it properly.
Yeah, so we should do it properly.
And I'll be able to tell you a bit more about what we get up to, potentially.
Yeah, next time I'm back, we'll do something.
Yeah, so at the moment I can't tell you too much, but I will be.
Well, that's it. So you'll have updates by that point. So.
And I can talk the hind legs off a donkey, so.
Yeah. As I said, no, it just feels a bit wrong because you'll quickly go over it in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, like, no, I don't think you should.
Let's stick a pin in it.
Yes.
And we'll come back to it. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast again.
No worries. Great to see you. Thank you
Always
for coming
enjoyable.
to do a workshop here at Berrycroft Hub.
Yeah. And I didn't say a lot today, which
Didn't get a word in edgeways, did you?
It's all good. I'm pretty tired at this point. So it's been a long day. But
well, you got up really early. You came here. You've talked all day. To be fair to lots of people.
Let someone else do the talking.
Yeah, I did a podcast with you as well, where I just talked. Got you to talk, and
I feel as well. It's like people can hear from me anytime. So like, if someone's interesting and has got a lot to say, then let them talk. Right? That's. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, obviously there's no end questions. If you want to know the answers to the questions I ask every guest, you're going to have to go back to Sally's first episode. Don't ask me what number it was.
I can't remember.
It was about 2 years ago, I think almost to the day, because there was a notification on Facebook, like a memory.
Was it as long ago as that?
It's 2 years ago. Wow. But if you go back through the back catalogue, you'll find it. And we cover some very different content to today.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching or listening, and I'll see you all next time.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.